Today, we're going to talk about one of the greatest stories ever told. And no, it's not some fantasy epic. It's the real, incredible story of how our species, Homo sapiens, managed to populate the entire planet. This is the story of our global journey. I mean, it's a huge question, right? Have you ever just kind of stopped, looked at all the different people around the world, and thought, how did we get here? How did we end up on literally every single continent? Well, the answer to that is what makes our story so amazing. Because despite all the incredible diversity we see today, our entire human family tree, well, it traces its roots back to just one single place. Okay, so let's get into it. Our journey starts in Africa, a continent that's rightly called the cradle of humanity, because, well, it's where our species was born. Let's just pause for a second and try to wrap our heads around the timescale here. Modern humans, people who were biologically just like us, showed up in Africa over 200,000 years ago. But for the vast, vast majority of our history, a mind-boggling 130,000 years, Africa was our only home. The whole story of humans leaving Africa, that only kicks off about 70,000 years ago. Think about that. Almost 2/3 of our entire existence as a species was spent right there. And you know what? For all that time, it was a good home. A really good home. Africa gave our ancestors everything they needed to flourish. The climates were mostly warm, there were plenty of animals to hunt, and a huge variety of plants to gather. This land was so supportive that it allowed our species to grow and thrive for tens and tens of thousands of years. Which, of course, brings us to a huge question. If life was so good in Africa, why on earth would anyone leave? What was this great push that finally sent small groups of humans out into a totally unknown world? Yeah, this is really the central mystery of this whole part of our story. If Africa was the perfect incubator for humanity, what could possibly have been strong enough to push our ancestors to step out into the great unknown? So the key thing to get here is that it wasn't just one thing. It was this slow, complex mix of factors. You had these massive climate shifts, like ice ages, that completely changed the environment, and that forced our ancestors to start following the herds of animals they relied on for food. At the same time, our own populations were growing, which started putting more pressure on resources. So it really wasn't like some grand expedition. It was more of a slow, generational creep, just exploring a little bit further, over the next hill, across the next river. So, pushed by all these different forces, our ancestors took their very first steps into brand new worlds. And this is where the action really picks up. Let's actually chart that incredible global journey. This whole path of migration, it wasn't a mad dash. It was the slow-motion expansion over thousands of generations. The first groups left Africa, probably through the Middle East. From there, some populations spread east across the massive continent of Asia, while others went north into Europe. After countless generations, they reached new lands, even making these incredible sea crossings to get to Australia. And the final frontier, that was the Americas, which humans got to by crossing Beringia, this land bridge that actually connected Asia and North America back in the last ice age, when sea levels were way lower. But look, this epic journey wasn't just about walking. It was about thinking. It was about innovating in a world that was throwing all sorts of new challenges at them. This is truly the story of the survival of the adaptive. What's so fascinating is that for every new challenge they faced, there was a brilliant human innovation to match it. Facing freezing cold climates and ice ages, they figured out how to create tailored clothing and build much better shelters. Entering totally unfamiliar landscapes, they developed brand new specialized tools for whatever they needed to do. They learned to hunt new kinds of prey and avoid new predators. Ultimately, it was our incredible ability to adapt that allowed us to conquer every single environment on Earth, from scorching hot deserts to frozen tundras. So, what does all of this ancient history, this story of movement and innovation, mean for us today, in our world of 8 billion people? This is where we connect that one single journey to the many, many peoples of the modern world. When you boil it all down, it all comes back to this simple, powerful number: 1. A single, common origin for every single person alive on this planet today. And that's really the core takeaway here. That ancient migration is the reason humanity is a global species. So while today we see this incredible, beautiful diversity of cultures and languages and appearances all over the world, it is so important to remember that underneath it all, we are all deeply connected by this one shared ancestral journey. It's just an incredible legacy to think about. With not much more than their own ingenuity and their own courage, Our ancestors crossed continents and oceans to populate an entire world, which leaves us with a final big thought. Now that we've come this far, what's going to be our next great journey?